Do you know
Well,
much
look,
about this one?
I do, since I'm here.
I figured we'd open up with it. It'd work out well for us. This is West Africa Weekly, a live series brought to you by Lynx and Arvy Nahar, where we talk about oil and gas news, projects, and developments that you can sink your teeth into. Here are your hosts, Greg and Arvy. Hey there.
Hey, Greg, how are you?
Good afternoon. I'm doing fantastic. Where are you at in the world today?
Oh, actually, so I'm live and direct from Abuja. I'm in Nigeria.
From Nigeria. Fantastic.
Yeah. So I got here on Monday. Really happy to be here. Got away from the snow in London, which is okay. So
That's
yeah,
fabulous.
I'll be here. Yeah, I'll be here for a couple of weeks. So I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Any outdoor activity right now is a good activity.
That's my point exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Fabulous. All right. Let's get our little rundown up there. All right, we'll go quickly over our oil prices. Nigeria's new petroleum bill, Recon Africa in the Kavango Basin, Sonatrach 2021, kind of some plans they have going on, and a couple of new awards there for Solstad and Subsea 7. So a little short today, but still some good things in there.
Sure.
All right. So for the oil prices, looks like WTI this morning or afternoon or good night where everybody's at is $53.44. And the Brent is sitting at $56.46. Hello, everyone. That's Oklahoma, Croatia, Indonesia. Welcome to the show. So, Arvy, what do you think about the prices? We talked about them last week. 60, 65 is where you're happy. So we still got a little bit to go.
How do I really feel about the oil price? Honest truth is, the kind of oil and gas activity I'm seeing at the moment, I'm optimistic, and I think we can look at about 60, 65, I think, in the next quarter. I'm very optimistic. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
I agree. So, for everyone that's just joining, this is West Africa Weekly with myself, Greg, and my co-host there, Arvy. And each week we kind of go over a few new projects and some things going on in West Africa and, some different places across Africa. So it's good to kind of keep a pulse on the industry. We're probably one of the only shows on the social networking kind of troposphere that's got anything about West Africa. So we think it's pretty important. So, Arvy, we'll move over here to Nigeria's new petroleum bill.
Sure.
Well, do you know much about this one?
I do, since I'm here.
I figured we'd open up with it. It'd work out well for us.
Yeah. No. So look, Nigeria has always is a unique setup when it comes to oil and gas in the oil and gas world because of his history and nature, being one of the continent's largest oil producers. So the crude oil sector accounts for about 90% of all export earnings. And this week, there's been a revised bill legislation, and again, with a lot of major concerns from a lot of people as well. So part of that bill was really to discuss taxes, to discuss flow down of, oil and gas revenue, as well as kind of the major concerns being right now is the deep water sector. So we know that this week there was concerns, and actually I read a really interesting article and report by a gentleman called Mike Sangster, and it's the oil production trade section. He actually represented a lot of the majors here. And their major concerns really is how will this affect deep water drilling projects? What are we going to do about the applied taxes? And really, is it going to affect foreign investment coming into the region? So again, it's very unique in its set up the region. But saying that, I think this bill was something that the sector needed to discuss, and especially this part of the world needed to discuss.
So it looks like this. They've been talking about this bill for quite some time now, haven't they?
Absolutely, yeah. It's been ongoing for a while.
Looks like they initially proposed. It was 2015, and the bill will see to the creation of more effective and transparent governing institution, maximization of fuel production and regulation, establishment of more competitive framework for the national oil company, and creation of an investment-friendly environment. So, as you said, the foreign investment. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot about framework building as well to make sure that foreign investment coming in going forward sits in a particular type of framework. So I think there's going to be, there's a lot of oil and gas activity here. I'm in Abuja at the moment, so next week I'll head out to Port Harcourt and Lagos, which is, I guess, the more kind of oil and gas hub, would you say, activity hub. So I'll be there next week. But from what I know, the bill's actually been really well received with some comments, but I think it's a good time for this to be implemented anyway.
2 decades is a long time to be waiting on a petroleum bill, isn't it?
It's a hell of a long time, Greg. It's a hell of a long time.
I'm sure they'll be glad when they get that moved in.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right. No, I think everything has been slowed down by COVID, obviously, but I mean, if they've been waiting on it for 2 decades, then one more year with COVID probably wasn't gonna slow down much, was it?
That's my point, precisely. I mean, the whole world has just gone. It's really strange. This has been my first time actually traveling during the COVID time, and I don't know what's your experience has been traveling.
I'd have to be honest. It's it never was really. There was a period there of about a month and a half, so that would have been April, in between April, May, and June. So I know that's 3 months, but whenever you're talking about shift work, that's only a month and a half. So there was a period in there in 2020 where obviously nothing was moving, but whenever it did go back to moving, airlines weren't available, so you had to take some charter flights. So there was a huge gap between like your large your large flight providers and the industry. A lot of our original petroleum routes are not available like they used to be. So there were some charter companies set up in the right place at the right time, and stepped in there and took up some of that work. But after, I would say, June to July, somewhere in that period, they started back with normal route. I say somewhat normal routing, but all the airports were basically vacant when we went through there in July and August. But I mean, been traveling all of 2020. But the strangest thing is you need to be, you should always be prepared whenever you're doing this stuff. But now you need to be extra prepared. So you need to make sure that you don't need anything before you get to your point of destination. So you can no longer rely on duty free. You can no longer rely on anything at the airport being open. So that those favorite spots, all the lounges were closed. So this is kind of those people that normally travel. I mean, these are like hubs of thriving environment of people in these lounges. They just didn't exist. So, yeah. But it was okay. It was okay. I mean, I didn't have any trouble. I mean, now we're starting to see some changes due to the vaccination coming in. But overall, it's actually I'm kind of a loner sometimes, and so I don't mind being the only guy in the terminal. It's okay. As long as I know the flight's coming and I can get out of there in the next 24 hours, I'm okay.
So you're right. Actually, you know what? I've had the similar experience to you. So going out of Heathrow again, the airport's just absolutely dead. And what strange thing is that sometimes I got nervous because sometimes you're not aware of what the actual COVID protocols are. So, when it comes to testing and what country with who, especially if you're moving within Africa right now. So, so far so good. I managed to get here, which is a good sign.
We got a question here from James real quick. So he wants to know what your theory is on the $60 to $65 a barrel.
Okay, so James, I kind of like my theory on the 65 oil price is more from the operational perspective. The kind of money and finance and projects being sanctioned and going for investment right now is what I base my theory on. I think that 55 it's fine. It's been like that for a while, and I definitely see a spike. And I was reading a really interesting logistics report with the cold winters in parts of Asia, which has actually pushed the oil price up as well. So I think that, my theory is based on my operational experience of what I think it has been and where we're going with a lot of project demand. So, yeah, whether I'm right or wrong, I'm not really sure about that. But again, it's just theory. That's what my thoughts are.
I don't think any of us could be right now.
Yeah,
I don't. Anytime you'd have, you kind of get your finger on the pulse, then something like, God forsake, a mudslide happen, or an earthquake happen, or something like that happen, where take some supply off the market or add some supply to the market. So yeah, it's very very liquid.
Agreed. Yeah, we can't control force majeure, unfortunately. Sorry.
That's exactly right. And then some people call force majeure. So some people have a different idea about force majeure now. So some people actually think that the COVID-19 is not force majeure.
I think it's strange because you're right, actually. So I remember many years ago, we're used to using the term force majeure, but I think of things like, well, I remember when I don't know I've forgotten who the contracting parties were, and they kept talking to me about act of God, and I was like, okay, I think that means force majeure. So I think people have a different definition of what force majeure is. But
we were always, and you're right, we were always told in the contracting world that force majeure, act of God. So if the virus is man-made,
yeah, exactly,
is it a force majeure? So it basically comes down to how long you want to wait for your money.
This is also true. Yes.
So that's what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. All right, our next one here on the list is we'll just briefly talk about Recon Africa and the Kavango Basin. We talked a little bit about Recon Africa there, Arvy. It was last show or the show before, but the thing about Recon Africa and their exploration here in the Kavango Basin, it has been identified back in early January, just after the first of the year, about the Kavango Basin being one of the prolific basins to watch in 2021, just because of its structure and their geology matches with the Permian Basin. And so it's interesting that they are in there and getting this kicked off, because there is almost no activity there except for Recon Africa.
What's really interesting is last time we spoke, I actually did a bit of research on Recon Africa, and their website is pretty good. I tend to look at the media section of the website, and I found out that they actually have 100% interest in a petroleum license in Botswana. And really, for me, I've not really seen many oil companies have 100% interest in a lot of the licensing. So I think really I'm quite impressed with their kind of development and their E&P work at the moment. Really quite impressed.
Right now, I think they're completing the seismic, and I know they're doing, I think, one exploratory well, or I think it's not fully engaged with it yet, but they here on the 22nd, they announced kind of an update. They commenced the permitting process for the acquisition of 450 kilometers of 2D seismic data in the Kavango Basin, of course. This is Kalahari Desert, which is northeast of Namibia. So to execute the program, the company is going with Polaris Natural Resources. So as a result of a competitive bidding process, Recon Africa has contracted Polaris Natural Resources Incorporated in Canada, longest standing seismic company, to provide acquisition services for its 2D seismic program. So there's a lot of buzz around Recon Africa. If you take a look at what they're doing on the market right now, as far as stock goes, their stock's moving quite a bit. So there is some investment and there is some interest in what they're doing there. That's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And I also found, as I was conducting some research, I found out that 80% of their workforce in Namibia is actually local, which is a very high.
It is, yeah.
Which is really quite a high quota. So super impressed, really.
The and for those that are just hearing about the Kavango Basin, it's formed. This basin here in Namibia is formed through a combination of rifting and shearing, most likely in the Permian to Triassic period. According to Recon African studies on the basin represents one of the largest onshore undeveloped hydrocarbon basins in the world. So, really exciting to see what they do this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
If it's anything like the Permian, even if there's, they find some good play there, then it'd definitely be good for Namibia. So. All right. Let's talk about Sonatrach. What do you know about it?
Have you ever worked? I was going to ask you, have you ever worked for Sonatrach, or have you had experience of working with them?
I haven't, but I have worked with some Algerians before, and I liked them. So.
And what?
I said I have worked with some Algerians before, and I like them.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. So it's like, I think, when you look at Sonatrach and you look at the kind of volume of investment we're looking at in the billions, you kind of think it's really quite impressive for an Algerian. Do you not think that's quite impressive for quite a small, unique kind of entity like that coming out of the North?
I think it's fantastic. I think
it's super.
When you look at what's going on here with Sonatrach, I mean, their investment program over the next 5 years, $40 billion or 51% in local currency. But the program reflects the implementation of policy or promoting local content with tangible desire to be part of an integrative approach for national companies. So that's kind of in your backyard too.
Sure. I think, what highlighted to me, I mean, that's such a big number. So I drilled into that number to see what kind of activity is attached to that 40 billion. And I think one of it was the contracts specifically was the Hassi Massoud refinery and the new contract and the development and the build of a new refinery. And also, I know that there's some ongoing agreements that they've got with some Italian and Spanish companies for perhaps EPC work as well. So I think they're very strategic in perhaps who they've contracted work with and who they're going to be working with going forward. So I'm very I'm looking forward to see how this development process works out.
It also said here that they highlighted the revival of the interest of foreign partners in the Algeria mining sector through the realization of several agreements and a memorandum and the renewal of gas agreements concluded with its Spanish partners, as you said, Italian and Spanish partners. So that's, I mean, if you look at Algeria on the map, through with Google Earth, it doesn't look like a lot as far as a country. It doesn't look like they have a lot of, structures and different things like this. They have a lot of, they must have a lot of friends around the world. So, I like smaller up and coming countries. I like people that are looking for, to make that next big step in the market. And I think Algeria is in that place to make that next big step. So.
Definitely.
Here at we talk about anytime you talk about like projects getting ready to get kicked off and get started, there's always buzz, whether it comes from the service department of the market, whether it's crew boats, whether it's helicopter companies, whether it's service providers in general. There's always going to be something kind of kicking off with those guys before the oil companies start come in and get ready to start working. So a couple of announcements this past week was this one from Solstad, which they have received 4 contract awards for 3 of its subsea construction vessels. The Norman Jarstenis has secured a contract with Norwegian's subsea contractor for a project in West Africa, of course. But commencement will be in January 2021, and duration are 2 months firm plus 1 month option. But the reason I want to highlight some of these, RV, was letting people that don't do this business and kind of understand what we do, is that anytime you start seeing kind of these smaller companies start buzzing around and things starting to move, and that means work's coming. So there'll be more. It's more work coming down the road. So
yeah, absolutely, and I think this is a perfect example of exactly what you were talking about the work coming, because it's those side subcontractors that really make the larger agreements and the deliverables work. Because as you know, these kind of schedules of delivery can sometimes go from 6 months to 12 to 18 months, depending on who's doing the work and who's doing the build for us. So I think this is a really good sign of what exactly is happening in industry right now. So the fact that you've got vessel, you've got construction EPC companies coming up and talking about, vessel build or platforms, anything like that, there's something big going to happen soon.
absolutely. Subsea 7 also was awarded a contract offshore in Angola. This is for Cabinda Gulf Oil Company Limited. Contract is for the Sana Lane gas connection. Looks a bit shallow there, 70 meters of water, but they'll be handling the project management and engineering from Paris and Lisbon. So fabrication will take place at Sonatrach Yard in Libido, Angola from 2021 to 2022, while the offshore operations will occur from 2022 to 2023. So, and so congrats to Solstad and Subsea 7 there.
Yeah. I think with Subsea 7 and their activities in Angola, something's got to be said with their long-term commitment in Angola as well. Because they've always, as I said before, going back 14 years, they were, when I first started in the oil and gas industry, they were one of our BP's contractors. And because they've had such a big commitment and in country for such a long time, I think they're probably the best people for the job. So I'm glad they won this through public tender, which is a good sign.
Yeah, Subsea 7's been around a long time. Yeah.
Absolutely, hell of a long time. But my first experience of working with them was actually for BP Angola. And so this is a major big project, and is it from Chevron, isn't it? Is it Chevron? Yeah. Is it?
This one here is for Cabinda Gulf Oil Company Limited. So I think this is a lean gas platform. So they're doing some subsea connection work in Block 0.
And I think that's a holding company of a Chevron arm, actually.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So interesting. I like the fact that Angola's up and coming. It's always been on the hit list anyway for the last couple of years. They're a major. So yeah, looking forward to this plane. Let's see. That's
right, James. CapEx.
So James, that's James's second question, yeah? James, you might as well send us an email so we can get to all your questions.
Let's see. This was his comment back about the oil prices too. After your
okay, good.
rundown. Yeah, I like those. Let's see what other comments we got here. Any questions? Welcome everybody. So that's Lagos is there. Indonesia, India, Qatar.
What are you laughing at?
Oh, these are great. Some of these are great.
What's that?
Well, Jose, you did almost miss this one, but you're in prime time for catching Ryan and I coming up in about an hour or so. So sorry that you missed all this fabulousness from West Africa Weekly, but you can. I'm gonna hope you get sorted out with the IRS, brother.
Funny.
All right. If there's no other questions, we'll call that a wrap for this week, Arvy.
Super. Okay, so I will touch base with you next week, Greg, for another round.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful trip. Take care in Port Harcourt and be safe.
Thank you, Greg. Speak to you soon. Bye.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Bye.
You've been watching West Africa Weekly, a live series brought to you by Lynx and Arvy Nahar. Your hosts have been Greg and Arvy. For sponsorship opportunities, send us an email at info@riglynx.com. Tune in next Thursday at 8 a.m. CST for another live episode.